Yep, so all of this will be filled in with insulation, and then plywood will go over the top, and then hardwood floors. Yeah.
Yeah, like what?
I'm sure a lot, but.
What is your vision for this?
So I have two little kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, 8-year-old now. He just turned 8. And we're going to be a full out living space, so a tiny house with the capability of hosting people for art classes, specifically the veteran community. I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, and with all of my mental health issues and, you know, traumas and that kind of stuff, art was my escape. I had a very big opiate problem based out of the VA. They were pretty much dealing me lots of toxic drugs, and I was kind of over it. And so I turned to the art community, and now I'm in art school, and I'm learning, you know, about myself and about art and all of that kind of stuff. So now I want to bring what I've been learning and what I know to be true in the art community to other communities. I plan on traveling full time once I'm getting my BFA now, and I plan on go through the master's program. And then once that's done, we're planning on full time living in the school bus.
Was there, I mean, besides your own experience, was there one like sole motivator that said like this is the vision and this is the idea?
It originally started out in my obsession with minimalism and going tiny and getting rid of all of my stuff. I'm a big collector, hoarder of all kinds of, if I can buy it and, you know, put it somewhere in my house, I'll find a place for it.
Capitalism at its best.
Yes, exactly. And so there's a documentary exactly about minimalism and capitalism. It's called Minimalism. It's on Netflix, and I watched that, and since then, with what they spoke about mental health and, you know, buying things for yourself but to make other people perceive you better was, you know, all I needed to hear to realize that's exactly what I had been doing. Buying things so that people would think I was cool, or buying things because that would make people want to come over and hang out with me because I had all the cool stuff. And, you know, I kind of switched from that, and now I don't really buy anything. So, yeah, that's where it started from. And then I bought the school bus in the intentions of building tiny, going tiny minimalism. And because I was already out in the community speaking about veterans' issues and my own therapy that I used as art, it kind of morphed into this painted buffalo studio, where taking this tiny house and inviting veteran community and their families onto my bus with their families and my families, and we kind of bond over just arts and crafts, you know, that kind of stuff. But then getting into, you know, just over conversation, you get more comfortable speaking about issues and that kind of stuff. And if I could spread a light on any veteran issues, the toxic, you know, opiate addiction that veterans have out of the government. I mean, I wasn't, you know, just a drug user because I was buying it from some weird guy on the corner. Like, I was being prescribed this medication, and it had a lot of potent effects on me. And so if I can educate people and steer them to other avenues, you know, and I am not against medication when you need it and when, you know, it's right for you and it works for you, but what I was diagnosed with and the medication they were giving me, it wasn't right for me. So if there's another way of getting out of your head, and PTSD and MST trauma and, you know, all of those kind of things, then might as well just make something pretty out of it, you know. that's what I'm trying to do.
Did you go through a program or anything like that? Or?
When I was in the Marine Corps, I was getting out and I went through an inpatient program. And that was the beginning of my opiate addiction, was going to this inpatient program, them diagnosing me with all of these mental disorders and then prescribing me all of this medication. Then when I got out, I continued in the VA system. And so that was about 5 years of strong, potent narcotics that, now are coming to terms with probably not the best to give to people. So, yeah, that's where it started, was active duty in the mental health department, talking to a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And that was in itself very taboo, is to talk about that you had mental health issues, and is very, bad. So that's where the journey kind of started. Yeah.
And if you don't mind me asking, where did you serve?
So I did 10 years. My first station was Marfort Pac out in Hawaii. And that was a lot of traveling overseas, Asia, Australia, that kind of stuff, doing humanitarian work and exercises, training other military branches, that kind of stuff, how we operate, with our allies, that kind of stuff. And then I went to Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia and worked there. And that's where I got in a really bad car accident and started my TBI process and mental health and all of that kind of stuff. And then I went to the Pentagon, which is not the place to send a person with mental health issues. And so, and there, that's where I started getting, help and medical board and all that kind of stuff.
Was there a specific, what did you end up doing at the Pentagon?
At the Pentagon, I originally worked at Combat Camera. I was a graphics Marine, so, doing anything that had to do with Congress, the White House, 8th and I, just the Pentagon in general, schools that kind of come out of there. And then I worked in the Operations Center at the basement of the Pentagon for 2 years, and that was pretty much tracking all 182,000 Marines and where they were going every day, and reading sit reps and, plotting movements and doing briefs for the generals. I built all of those. And then the business that I'm parked at now, it's a Marine veteran-owned business, and so they've really helped me out using their power and letting me park here full-time while I build it. And that veteran community, veterans helping veterans, which is my big push. It really came into play for me because he's a Marine Corps veteran and I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I called him up on Thanksgiving. Hey, I have to move my bus. Is that rain check still available? And he said, come on by, we're having dinner. And so I just drove it down Wendover and came over, and it's been parked here ever since.
So you had to lay out, you had to tear out the seats, kind of do some breakdown.
Yep. So you tear out the seats, and under the seats there's plywood, and then there's rubber, and then there's metal. And so all of those layers after 97, so what's that, 15, 20 years worth of children and grime, and I found crayons, I found, gum, notes, all kinds of stuff throughout all kinds of stuff throughout the bus. And so you just I took 3,000 pounds to the dump after I was done taking everything out. Maroon paint you see is rust aluminum, which prevents rust from continuing, and so you do that. And then this framework is the framework for insulation, but also your plywood and your wood floors, and then eventually cabinets and beds and toilets, and I'm putting in a bathtub, and then couches and kitchen supplies, and all of the weight will be dispersed on this framework eventually. The subfloor to cover all of this area.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to hopefully fill in my double layer. I don't know how long it'll take, but pretty much just pulling that stuff in, scraping all the excess foam so I can put the boards nice and flush, and, you know, go from there. All right, there we have it. We have power. The guy I was just talking to on the phone, he, someone volunteered his company to help me with all my electrical needs. So he was making a date on when to come out here to help me.
Can you tell me about Bella?
Bella, she's an 8-year-old lab mix. I got her at the pound about 8 years ago. She was 5 months old. This just runt of a puppy, and she's been mine ever since. About 3 years ago, I got some training done, so I was able to use her as a service dog. And so now she comes to school and work and out here on the bus. Any classes I teach, she comes out and just gives the veterans a little taste of home, you know. A lot of people, I hear a lot of stories, I miss my dog, or I used to have a dog, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So Bella kind of fills in that void and finds sticks, and she kind of just makes this place her own.
Do you know what's involved in the training for a service dog?
A lot of hard work. It costs, so I used Semper Canine, which is a Marine veteran. He was a canine handler. That was his job in the Marine Corps. And when he got out, he saw the need for him and all his guys to kind of just need a battle buddy. And because he had the background of dog training and all that kind of stuff, he founded Semper Canine, which is a nonprofit based out of Quantico, Virginia. And so it costs about $20,000 to train one service dog for a veteran. So, you know, they're in great need for money and all that kind of stuff, because they do everything by volunteer status. But pretty much, you know, they train service dogs to remind you about your medicine, you know, help you in a panic attack. You know, if you have insulin, diabetic problems, they'll remind you that you need to take your medicine, or if you're about to have a seizure, they can train a service dog to alert you before that happens so you can get into a safe space. I mean, Bella definitely saved my life. I came from a really low place when I got out of the Marine Corps, and you know, I'm around because I have my 2 kids, and I need them to have a mama, but you know, Bella was definitely a part of that saving grace, that extra step that I needed to stay around and get help. And you know, sometimes she's more nuisance than good, but you know, like all dogs, they have that, you know, ability. Huh, Bella? What happened to you? You's a good girl. Yes, a good job. You do a good job, don't ya? Yeah, good girl. All right. What happened? You gonna go on the bus? No, ma'am. Huh. She's like, I don't think so. You better when he came. There's a lot of adapt and overcome here at the bus.
And Nissan
It's weird, right?
awards, including best midsize car, large car, and midsize pickup in initial quality. That means more people are loving the quality of their new Nissans. Shield 360. Hurry into Nissan now.
Get 0% financing for up to 60 months on 14 models, or get a low $230
And I have this big gaping hole that I have to weld. See this one here? There's the road. I'll know where it is. But yeah, I gotta cut this whole thing out and then weld the piece there. Yeah, this is to open up the fuse box panel on the other side. Nope, no birdies yet. They're coming though, the weather. You know, I'm stressing always about money and how am I going to afford this and, you know, nonprofit status and, you know, that kind of stuff. People think nonprofits are just, you know, got lots of money to give away, but, you know, all of this is all my money, you know. So, it's stressful, but, you know, we're gonna make it happen, and we're gonna move forward and keep moving up. Yeah, it's fun. But I really enjoy it. So when I came back, I'm like, my first project, the first day I was home, so jet lagged, couldn't sleep. So I put in the mattresses. I had to custom make these mattresses because they're not normal size. So I had to cut them down, and, you know, like, that's why the sheets are a little too big. So now I'm back to, like, clear head, you know, have a whole list of insane amount of projects. I have a list around here somewhere, but lots more stuff to do. But yeah, it's fun. See how, like, the curve of the bus? This is to, you know, you put it up here like this and tighten these, and it stays with the curve so that you can cut your wood to be, you know, perfect. Because it's hard to kind of, this isn't like a specific angle or anything. And each rib, you know, all the way back, they're completely different, which is not fun. About it, I've just got some, you know, until I have some more funds, I've got, you know, just small little projects that I'm working on. This will be a pantry. I don't think I'm gonna keep these drawers in here, but I might, you know, just keep like canned goods and, you know, all that kind of stuff. This will have a door.
So how are you working on money, I guess? How's that coming about?
Fundraising and that kind of stuff, but, you know, and I mean, I make money. I'm medically retired from the military, so I have a pension, but that comes once a month, and, you know, I've got 2 small kids and, you know, a life also, so, you know, just a little bit when I can find it, you know, pension and saving. I've created a couple fundraisers and that kind of stuff, but until I applied for nonprofit status. I'm building my nonprofit, so once that happens, I can apply for grants and all that kind of. That's, oh yeah, you saw that,
your spine.
my spine of just, you know, how to apply and, you know, how to form a nonprofit and, you know, doing my research. You know, I don't want to go into this blind, but I'm pretty.
Full-time deal.
This is a full-time job, let me tell you. So, you know, I'm just, you know, I can apply for grants and all that kind of stuff, but I have to be a nonprofit to apply for some of these grants. So a lot of, you know, like, I'll apply for grants as a student and a veteran student, and, you know, because I have college paid for, that's where that money is going, is my nonprofit. But, you know, that's not a lot of money, you know. It's, you know, a couple $100 at a time, you know, because they try to divvy it up between a lot of different students. So, you know, financial aid and all that kind of stuff has pretty much built this bus, if I didn't pay for it, through my military compensation. So yeah, just slowly, building up. But, if you have any people, send them my way.
What was the straw that finally broke the camel's back that said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do?
I did it more, not as, I don't want to say selfish, but I did it because I needed something to do, because I didn't have a lot going on. I was a full-time student, I'm retired, I've got 2 small kids, I've got a lot of animals, so I needed, something to, fill my time. So I thought this would be a really good idea. I had always wanted to go tiny and raise my kids in a tiny space and, sand technology, a lot of technology and, that kind of stuff. So I just on a whim said to my friend, hey, you want to go, check out and test drive a school bus? And she was like, surprised, but not surprised because she knows, who I am and how I operate. I kind of throw crazy ideas at her.
Free
and
spirit.
Yeah, I kind of just go with the winds and kind of like, oh, that sounds like a bright idea. It only costs, about $5,000, which is a lot of money, but if it tanks, it's not like buying a $200,000 house or something crazy. So she came with me, and it was the first school bus I looked at. And, the guy was friendly and everything, and it was a good shaped bus, it wasn't rusty and all nasty or anything. So after I took the test drive, I drove home and I called the guy. I said, okay, I'll buy it. But it was right before I was going to Italy last summer for study abroad. So he held on to it for me, which was really, really kind. And so I paid him half, and when I came back, he let me pay the other half, And so, all last summer when I came back from Italy, I was gutting it. So it was, 100 degrees outside, and it's hot right now, and it's only, 70. So it was all summer I was in here cutting and grinding all these, sheet metal, all of that sheet metal you saw before I put up the walls. That was all sheet metal. The whole floor ground was sheet metal. I did that all last summer, and then I took a couple months break because it was really cold. So in here was really cold. But January I picked back up, and so from it's June. So January through June I've built all of this in between classes and kids, and I had 2 jobs on top of all of those things. That were helping kind of finance and give me some play money to, take my kids on adventures and everything like that. But I decided to cut the jobs and just use my money to, have more time for the bus and get done quicker. So that's how I was able to, in between classes, I'd come out here before picking my kids up at school, after school and all that kind of stuff. I was in here working. Weekends, my kids and I are in here working, So just whenever I had a free moment to spare, I was in here kind of building.
How are your kids taking to it right now?
They're both adventure, free spirit children. I'm really thankful that they got that and not like some type A, like I don't know what to do with these children, they're not mine type personalities. They're both free spirits, like to travel and wander and all that. They're a little iffy on living tiny, but I think, Mom knows best. And as soon as they get in here and all the adventures we go on, and they both love teaching, like whether kids come to the bus and we have art classes, they both hop up and teach the class and kind of love showing the little guys how to work material and everything. And they're both very artistic, so I think they'll do just fine and, have tons of fun doing it. Both of them love coming here and working and building, and they designed, a lot of how you see the setup and everything was pretty much like, hey guys, what should I do here? And, you know, they'd kind of, and we'd do it and be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let's redo it, you know, and kind of just teaching them, you know, things that I've fallen in love with, art and construction and, you know, building and using your hands and your brain and your imagination. This is a very big Tetris project, you know, kind of figuring out where things fit and flow. Yeah, I had all these slats across the bottom, but that's so much storage under there. So I removed the slats, and I'm designing a thing where the slats are attached to a 2x4, so I can fold down the wall. There's storage. I can lift the wall, latch it. So that's what that pile of predetermined mess. It's not a mess, but. You know, one thing I really did admire about the Marine Corps that's different than all the other services. When you join the Marine Corps, you join because you want to be a Marine. Not because you want to go to college, not because you want, you know, compensation, not because anything. Just the proud moment you get to wear the Eagle Globe and Anchor and put on that uniform. That's all you join the Marine Corps for. Not all the extra fluff, you know what I mean? And so that's one thing that's, you know, if you say a Marine, you naturally just get that elevated status forever, you know, because their motto, like they have a lot of them, Semper Fi and, you know, whatever, first to fight, all this stuff. But, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine. And for the rest of my life, that's one thing nobody can ever take away from me, was I was a Marine, you know. So that's just really, really fun and really awesome. And I just get to make fun of everyone that isn't a Marine. The number one thing one thing that's like, I like want to just like laugh in people's faces. I was gonna join the Marine Corps, but I'm like, but you didn't. That the end of that story. You know, like I always get people that say, oh, I was gonna join the Marine Corps, but, or oh, I was gonna join the military, but you didn't. End of story, you know? Yeah, someone painted this for me. These are all my friends who died in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then 2 died in Nepal. They were in a plane accident, a helicopter accident during humanitarian aid stuff. So, but Corporal Perkins, he's the only combat camera Marine to win a Medal of Honor. He died in 1967, so which war is that? 1967.
Vietnam.
There you go. Salazar, we got McChung, Fabrari, Medina, and Hug. They all are combat camera guys. Photo, video. So yeah, someone painted this, so I just hung it up to kind of keep at why I'm doing this, is so, you know, these all died in war related, but 22 a day die from mental health. So that's what, you know, pretty much Painted Buffalo veterans. Yep, military and veterans. 22 military veterans killed themselves every single day. That's a lot of people. A lot. It's a huge epidemic. So, you know, pretty much Painted Buffalo's whole mission is to give veterans a tool for their toolbox on, you know, how to stay alive. Something other than, you know, thinking about their problems. Art, you know, was my number one savior. I was in the same boat. Wanted to die, had an opiate problem, you know, from my hip surgeries and all kinds of crazy stuff. Drinking too much, you know, so this is just hopefully a more healthy way of coping with all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's probably why I like it so much, because I can kind of come in here and zen, meditate, mindful, just work on building stuff using my brain in other ways than thinking about all of the horrible stuff that, you know, we think about and kind of encompasses our brain. So